Morning, everyone. So I found another Martin Luther King Jr. story that I'm going to read. It's on the computer, so I have to keep stopping and starting so that I can catch up with the computer as I'm reading it. So here we go. I am Martin Luther King Jr. When I was little, I used to get into a lot of accidents. One day, my brother hit me in the head with a baseball bat. 2 other times, I mistakenly got knocked over by a car. Another day, I tumbled over a banister, then bounced through an open door into the basement. No matter how many times I fell, I kept getting back up. Even before I could read, I knew I liked books. My dad always talked about how I kept a lot of books around me. I used to tell my parents, when I grow up, I'm going to get me some big words. There is power in words. Big words were in my future. When I was 6 years old, one of my best friends was a boy whose father owned a store across the street from us. My friend was white. I was black. It didn't matter to us, though. We would play games and have fun together all day. But when we started going to school, everything changed. He went to a school where all the kids were white. I went to a school where everyone was black. Soon after, he told me, "I can't play with you." "Why?" I asked. "My dad said so. He doesn't want us to be friends." "But why? We're best friends, aren't we?" I didn't understand. It just didn't make sense to me. At dinner, my parents explained, "It's because you're black and he is white." I was so mad that day. How could someone treat me differently just because of the colour of my skin? I wanted to hate his father and my friend. But my parents told me to do the opposite, that I should love my friend even though he had hurt me. They taught me that it's better to have more love in your life than more hate. My mother taught me one of the most important lessons of all, that I must never feel that I am less than anybody else and that I am good as anybody else around me. I wanted to believe it, but every day I saw the exact opposite. I saw you could be treated unfairly just because of the colour of your skin. If you were white, you went to a good school with great playgrounds and plenty of books. If you were black, your school was small, sometimes with no desks or even windows. It wasn't just schools. Black people had to use different water fountains, elevators, even different bathrooms. In fact, on a hot day when everyone wanted ice cream, if you were white, you could sit at the counter and eat from a nice dish. But I was black. If they served me at all, it was through a side window and they put my ice cream in a flimsy paper cup. Most of the time, it had already melted. It got even worse when I was 14. I'd just won a speech competition. My speech was about being fair to all. I was so excited. Then, on a bus ride home, a few white people got on board. The bus conductor told us we had to give up our seats for the whites. First, I stayed put. It didn't seem fair. My teacher, though, she convinced me to move. We spent the rest of the ride standing and getting tossed in every direction. I was the angriest I had ever been. Every day this is what it was like. Black people were treated terribly. The only question was, though, will it move on? What could I do about it? I was only 14. At the age of 15, I started college. By 19, I had become a minister and entered seminary school to study religion. Over those years, I read the works of David Thoreau and Mahatma Gandhi. Thoreau taught me about civil disobedience, how an evil system could be changed without violence. Gandhi opened my mind to the power of non-violent resistance, which is love. It's using love and peaceful methods to change unfair things in society. It was a lesson I wanted to share with everyone in the world. In no time at all, I got my chance. In Alabama, a black woman named Rosa Parks was told to give up her bus seat to a white man. It was just like what had happened to me. But unlike me, Rosa Parks refused. She was arrested. And early the next morning, I got a phone call from a local community leader. "We should boycott the buses so that everyone knows that we won't accept this treatment anymore," they said. It was just like Thoreau had taught. Instead of using violence to protest the unfair rules, black people would use a peaceful method. We would not ride the buses. Without our money, the bus companies would go out of business. Now, the only question, would it work? On the first day of the protest, my wife called me out of the window. The buses are all empty. It's working. We had to keep it going, though. As the head of the bus boycott, I gave one of my most important speeches of my life. The room was packed, camera crews were filming. I'd only 20 minutes to prepare. I didn't use notes, but speaking from my heart, I found out how big words can be. The police put me in jail, saying I was breaking the law. Other people bombed my house, but instead of using my fists, I kept calm. For more than a full year, every black person in the city, and some white people too, refused to ride the buses. That meant some people had to walk for miles, but they kept going. There was power in standing together. Eventually, our protest worked. The rules were changed, and public buses could no longer separate people based on their colour of their skin. That was our beginning. Soon, peaceful protests sparked other peaceful protests. Lunch counters, college students would organise sit-ins where they would not stop until everyone could eat together. Our methods of non-violence were so powerful I was invited to meet with the president of the White House. And sometimes the hardest problems were right at home. We couldn't go to amusement parks. They weren't open to black people. Seeing my daughter cry was one of the most painful moments of my life. Was it easy? Absolutely not. During one protest in Birmingham, Alabama, the police again arrested me and locked me in a dark jail cell that only had one window. Someone slipped me a newspaper article in which white religious leaders had written an article calling us lawbreakers. Someone snuck me a pen. In that jail cell, I wrote my own response in the margins of the newspaper and even on toilet paper. My letter from Birmingham jail was soon published as a pamphlet. Then it was in magazines and newspapers. Today it has been read by millions of people. Like I said, it is amazing how big words can be. Our message was so important, even kids your age joined us. In Birmingham, during the Children's Crusade, more than 1,000 children, some as young as 6 years old, showed up to march. The first day, the police arrested 900 of them. The next day, 2,500 children showed up, ready to go to jail. This was our finest hour. Enraged that we were not giving up, the chief of police told the firemen to spray the children with water hoses and attack them with dogs. They thought it would stop us, but instead, as the whole country watched on TV what they were doing to our children, it was a wake-up call for the nation's conscience. 90 days later, the rules began to change. Now blacks and whites in Birmingham, Alabama, were using the same lunch counters, water fountains, and restrooms. You could feel it in the air. Change was coming. Freedom was contagious. By the summer of 1963, an estimated 1 million Americans held their own protests in cities across the country. A man named A. Philip Randolph suggested a massive march. People came from almost every state in the country. They came in nearly every form of transportation. They took time off work, did not get paid, just to be there. Old people, young people, black people, white people, even children like you, came to Washington, D.C., gathering in a righteous army. Why? Because they wanted a change, and they knew the surest way to change the world is to stand together. On August the 28th, 1963, I stood at the podium and spoke with what some later called my biggest words of all. After the March on Washington, the President and Congress passed new laws for civil rights, but that didn't mean our work was done. Indeed, our greatest battle was still to come. It began with 600 activists as they tried to walk 54 miles from Selma, Alabama to the state of Montgomery. Back then, there were rules that stopped black people from voting. If you want to change the laws, you have to be able to vote for new people who make the laws. The police had billy clubs and tear gas. They attacked our group and knocked many people down. But, as I learned so long ago, you have to get back up. No matter how hard they hit us, we remained peaceful. Still, we didn't get through. 2 days later, we tried again. Now there were 2,500 of us. Once again, we tried. Once again, we did not get through. But did we give up? What do you think? It was Sunday, March the 21st, 1965, our third try, now with 8,000 people with us. For 2 days we marched. Rain could not stop us. The whole world was watching. The White House was too. President Johnson even sent troops to protect us. Exhaustion could not stop us. As we reached Montgomery, Alabama, tears were shed, but this time they were tears of joy. In my life, people tried to tell me I wasn't as good as they were just because of the colour of my skin. When someone hurts you like that, it can be tempting to hurt them back, but you must refuse. When someone shows you hate, show them love. When someone shows you violence, show them kindness. To reach our goals, we must walk the path of peace. We must lock arms with our brothers and sisters. We must march together, because when we do, our voices will be heard and freedom will ring. I am Martin Luther King Jr. I stand for peace. I stand for justice. I stand to help others. I stand as proof that no matter how hard the struggle, we must fight for what is right and work to change what is wrong. Whatever struggle you face, no matter how hard it gets, you must always move forward. I am proof of this. If we rise up, if we stand together, if we remain united, nothing can stop our dream. The time is always right to do right. Martin Luther King Jr. And that is the story of Martin Luther King. I will see you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.